Hi, I'm astrologer and life coach Penny Dix. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to my full moon in Gemini, which is on December the 8th and 9th, depending where you are on the planet. And this is to look at all the astrological energies of this full moon. And after I've done the brief overview, then all your individual zodiac signs, you can go to them and listen to how I feel this particular full moon is going to affect you. So what do we know about Gemini? And what do we know about Sagittarius? Because that's where the sun is, and the moon is in Gemini, and they're obviously in opposition, which is why we get a full moon. And there's something about this mutable energy, because both Sagittarius and Gemini are mutable, which shows that there is a kind of a flexibility with whatever unfolds around this time. And yet, with the presence of Mars, our planet of action, assertion, arguments, disputes, energy, also the god of war, Mars is retrograde in Gemini, conjunct this full moon. This kind of implies it could be quite reactive and quite dramatic. But remember, as I often say, with all of these energies, it's what we do with them. It's how we respond to them. And usually it's better to respond rather than react. Often when we react, we make knee-jerk decisions and then live to regret it. So that's just a kind of caveat about this kind of Gemini, Sagittarius mutable energy. And remembering as well that Gemini is about communication. It's about thought. And Sagittarius is about truth. And it's also about higher education. What do we need to learn about? What do we need to educate ourselves on? Maybe that's on a personal level, but maybe it's also actually what we're seeing on the world stage. So let's have a look and see what is actually occurring, because I do think that, you see, Neptune, my big outer boy Neptune, who is squaring, which is a tough angle, both the sun and the moon. Now, Neptune can be about deception. Also, it can be about our sort of intuitive feelings. It can also be about the virus. You know, I think we're all hoping that we get a much easier winter with regard to COVID. I know there's already a lot of flu around and a lot of horrendously bad colds that I've seen, you know, hoping very much that I steer clear of all of those. But I do feel that with this full moon, we see truths get revealed, and they're going to stir up anger and fury. Neptune squaring both the sun and the moon implies an underlining kind of deception that has existed. Other interesting energy that we've got is from my big outer boy Saturn, our planet of containment, restriction, boundaries. Saturn in Aquarius is actually trining the moon. And that is a really important aspect for this full moon, and really needs to be underlined, because it gives, or Saturn gives us the opportunity to set the record straight, to enforce necessary rulings, whatever that might mean for you, or whatever it means for what's happening in the world. So how is the planet going to fare? Well, as I said, this is a full moon that's conjunct Mars, so it's about truth because of Sagittarius, which is where the sun is. It's about anger. Neptune brings in deception. And Also, Sagittarius brings in the law. So I think we can take our pick as to whom, what, or where this energy is going to apply. I mean, as I record this on the 27th of November, we're seeing riots in China as the people of China are getting very angry about these awful kind of draconian lockdowns that they're experiencing because COVID has really taken off there. So this full moon could bring something to a head. What that is, we'll have to wait and see. Because I do think there's a sense with this full moon, with Neptune making a hard square, that we get kind of like media blackouts. That could be about China, could be about Ukraine, it could be about Iran, Russia. But because Mars is so active in this full moon, I think with regards to Ukraine, we're going to see the potential that there'll be a kind of final push from either side to gain some ground before the winter sets in. But I also think because of that Saturn making a harmonious trine to the full moon, that we may see yet another push for diplomatic discussions to ease the tensions in Ukraine. I don't think we're going to see that in Iran, and I don't think we're going to see that in China. And I think this full moon in both those areas could bring things to a kind of head at this time. How is this full moon going to affect you personally? Well, the event chart shows me that you need, or we all need, including me, to watch our spending around this full moon, because we might be deceiving ourselves about how much we can afford, especially with Christmas coming and Black Fridays and, I don't know, Red Thursdays, whatever, I don't know. Because the sun in Sagittarius, which of course is ruled by Jupiter, might be making us extravagant. So that this square from Neptune in Pisces is kind of blinding us to the realities of our own personal economic situation. So I think we just need to be mindful of that and, kind of just be mindful and not go beyond our own personal kind of means. Also, I think around this full moon, there's something around relationships, which is that there's a sort of suddenness, something comes up around relationships in the sense of what gets revealed, that we find out a truth about a significant person in our life or people. It could be a business partner, some truth that comes to light which really is quite surprising. And it could, in that sense, be quite shocking. But I do feel with this, as I always do with astrological energies, that when something like that happens and brings about changes that on the surface we don't like, actually, whatever it is that has to change is for our greatest good. And so that ultimately, whatever unfolds and comes out with this particular full moon is bringing healing. And it clears the way for the right people to be in our lives. If certain people or situations have to, or we have to distance ourselves from them. So before I go on to your individual signs, let's just have a look at what the final thoughts were that I jotted down. Okay, so yes, this is a moon of change. It's a moon of deep thought. it's a moon of revelations that can be disturbing. But as they say, it's better out than in, because it will clear the way for you to follow your path in full awareness and understanding of the direction that you're meant to go. Not the direction someone else wants you to go, but your direction. Right, let's move on to your individual signs. So, let's start with Aries. So for you, this full moon is very much about how you communicate, because it's in your section of communication. So what this full moon is telling me that, you know, Aries, you're a fire sign. Mars rules your sign. You've got Mars here, firing up your thoughts, your overthinking, your determination to get your point across. And really what this full moon is saying is make sure you've got the facts straight before you start kind of launching ahead with maybe harsh words or challenging words. And ultimately, it's a full moon that says, if you handle this in the right way and seek the truth, and that ultimately will most definitely be for your highest good and the highest good of others. Taurus. For you, it's in your second house of finance and value and possessions and self-worth. So you maybe are thinking about splashing out on something, and if you listen to the overview, you'll know that my advice there is be very careful of that, because you might regret it. I think that usually, Taurus, you're really very good at being quite sensible and realistic and clear about your finances, but that Neptune square from Pisces could drain some of your sort of financial assets. So I think it's just about being thoughtful, mindful, and thinking, you know, it may be that you want to create a really lovely Christmas and buy loads of lovely things for friends and family, but remember to do it within your budget, Taurus. Otherwise, this full moon is just going to be a little bit difficult for you over the next coming weeks. Now, Gemini, of course, this is all about you and your identity. This is who is Gemini. Who are you this week? Because you can change quite a lot. You have this ability, this flexibility to kind of constantly recreate yourself. You have such an active mind. And with Mars in your first house, and you've got this energy here, you've had it for quite a few weeks, months, and it's going to be there until, gosh, I think it's March next year. So it's a long stay in your sign. And it's kind of revving you up. It's at times winding you up. So be mindful of that. And I think this full moon is that you're going to be making some quite definitely kind of strong decisions about situations with significant people in your life that you just really can't tolerate any longer. What I want to say, if that's the path you're going down, make sure you have all your facts, because that Neptune aspect could be clouding your vision and not helping you see things as clearly as they are. Okay, let's move on to Cancer. Cancer. Well, this is in your 12th house. This is the sector of your chart that is to do with that kind of inner, very private you, that soft, mushy bit in your hard external outer shell. And it's a full moon. It's conjunct Mars. I think it sees you understanding certain things about yourself and the way you've been managing your kind of day-to-day routine, and looking at ways that you can just make it a bit more malleable, a bit more flexible. You see, Cancer, you're a cardinal sign. That means that you get an idea and you initiate it, you get on with it. So having a full moon in this mutable part of your chart actually is giving you the flexibility to, in a sense, look at what you need to take with you into next year and what you could actually let go of. So try not to allow that Neptune to cloud your thinking around this. Use the energy of Saturn in Aquarius to look at what it is that you really, really want to achieve and to bring into your life, to transform you. Leo. So for you, Leo, this is very much about hopes that you have, wishes that you have, dreams, plans. It may be with this Mars retrograde that there is something you are feeling very passionate about, that in some ways you need to change the whole structure of it. It's like you're not seeing it clearly. You're not seeing clearly how you can actually manifest and materialize this particular vision. Use Saturn. Saturn in Aquarius, in your 7th house of significant relationships. What this is giving you the opportunity to do is to discuss this with people that you know are on your team, to discuss the way forward, so that if there's something you have to let go or get rid of, and I think this is with regard to some kind of work project, something of that nature, that you don't let the wrong things go, that you keep the things that are valuable to allow them to grow and develop in the future and in 2023. Virgo. So Virgo, my little worry pots of anxiety, which you are sometimes. So Virgo, this is in that sector of your chart that is about your kind of higher purpose, your soul purpose, your career, if you have one, your passion in life, if you have one. Everyone should have something they're passionate about. Hobby, it doesn't really matter, but we should all have something that we're passionate about. If you can hear any interference, this is not part of the reading. We have the most extraordinarily strong gale force winds today, and sometimes it sounds like they're blowing in the windows. So there was a particularly big gust then, which just made me kind of think, whoa, what with earthquakes last week and torrential rain and with storms, pestilence. Anyway, Virgo, back to your reading. So Virgo, this is about something you're passionate about. I think you're getting hot under the collar about it. That's that Mars retrograde conjunct this full moon. What it's telling you is, again, a bit like I said to Leo, don't throw it out just because it isn't the right time for it to work. Because that Saturn in Aquarius is saying, Virgo, it's about timing. This can work, but it's about timing. It's about being patient. So be careful that you don't get so frustrated about something that you literally just go, oh, that's it, I've had enough, I'm not going to do this anymore. Try not to react try to respond. Now let's move on to Libra, my lovely balanced individuals most of the time. So Libra, the full moon for you, conjunct Mars retrograde, is in the sector of your chart that is to do with travel. Now this can be literal, physical, long distance journeys. It's also the sign of truth. So we're kind of getting this underlining of this search for truth. This could be to do with something you're researching, that you finally actually break through something which has been quite tough. I also think, quite literally, if you are making any journeys around this time, just be mindful, be careful. Don't take any unnecessary risks, Libra. There's just, that Mars energy, it's like don't drive too fast, don't cross the road without looking, just be mindful. And use that Saturn energy to slow down. It's making such a lovely aspect. It's trining it. It's really helpful. Now let's move on to Scorpio. So for you, Scorpio, it's in that sector of your chart which is to do with your kind of your transformation, where you really kind of it's actually your house, because the 8th house on the zodiac wheel is a Scorpio house. So it's kind of underlining this need that you have to have, Scorpio, to actually take a good hard look at you and what you're doing and where you're going. That Mars retrograde, I think, is winding you up. It's conjunct this full moon. Be careful you don't leave something you don't want to really leave, end something you don't really want to end. Try not to do any door slamming unless you're absolutely certain that that door should be firmly shut. And again, look to Saturn, that wonderful Saturn energy. Take some time out. Be at home for a couple of days, if that's possible, and just kind of, binge watch Netflix or whatever. But just do something that kind of calms that energy down. Sagittarius. So for you, of course, it's in your opposite sign, Gemini, so the sun in your sign, and happy birthday, Sagittarius, is about the fact that this is a full moon about your identity within a relationship, within a significant relationship. And because a full moon can mean endings, it could literally mean that something has to end, but it can also mean that something just has to significantly change. That's another use of this energy, because sometimes it's not about throwing everything out, which that Mars energy in this part of your chart might push you to do. It's actually about taking a step back, looking at that Aquarius energy and just thinking, I could just give this a little bit more thought. I could just take some time out, think about it, breathe. And, my advice would actually be, don't make any drastic decisions during the days around this full moon. Remembering it's on the 8th, 9th, so the days, the sort of few days leading up and the 2 weeks beyond it. So just be aware of that. The other interesting thing about this full moon in the 7th house, if you happen to be single, is that the most extraordinary kind of episode could happen, and you just meet someone and it's the end of your single life. But it may be short-lived if you're not seeing clearly what this relationship is about. So just bear that in mind. Now let's move on to Capricorn. So Capricorn, for you, this is in the part of your chart that is to do with your day-to-day routine. It's also to do with your health. And I do feel that this is a full moon you do need to be particularly mindful of because of that Mars energy. Whilst Mars has been in this part of your chart, which has been quite challenging for you, you know, some of you might have had these colds and flu that's going round, and it's probably sapped your energy. That Mars retrograde is just, I think it's exhausting you. So this full moon is really saying, take it easy. Use that Saturn energy from the 2nd house, Aquarius, which is about you valuing you. Put yourself first, Capricorn. If you're super tired, if you're just a little bit under the weather, really take some time out. You know, Capricorn, you're so good at keep working your way up that hill and getting to the top. It's okay to stop and just take some time out. This is a full moon about you putting yourself first and allowing yourself to just recharge your own inner batteries. Now we come on to Aquarius. Right, so Aquarius, well, this full moon is in the part of your chart that is actually all about fun. And it could be that there have been certain kind of things happening in your life that have really been quite good of late, something that you want to celebrate. And I think this full moon is showing us that there is something that you have actually achieved, that you can actually breathe a sigh of relief and go, wow, I did it. I succeeded. I've done that. And again, a little bit like I was saying to Capricorn, don't overextend your energies partying or celebrating some triumph. Try and use that Saturn energy, which of course is in your 1st house, to just take things calmly, to take some time, to sit back and enjoy what you've achieved, whatever that might be. And I think also there's some stuff going on at home, which you just need to be a little bit mindful about, but just use that energy to slow down a bit, Aquarius, so that you don't allow yourself to get overtired. And then finally, we come on to Pisces, my oceans of emotions. I'll never get this right, but it's supposed to be 2 fishes swimming in opposite directions. Oh dear, it's very sad, isn't it? So Pisces, how are you, my little emotional fish? Still swimming around that goldfish bowl and, you know, just popping your head in every now and then? Well, Pisces, this is a full moon about significant change at home. That's about your living space. It's about your family. Now, in all seriousness, Pisces, and remembering that you've got Neptune in your sign, making a hard square to this full moon in your home sector, what this is telling us is that you really do need to be careful that you are seeing things clearly about anything, any big changes that you want to make about your living space, whether that's about moving out, leaving somewhere, someone, making radical changes to the sort of structure of your family and home life. Just be mindful of it. And again, as I've said to a lot of the other signs, don't make knee-jerk decisions. You've got Mars here. It's like, yes, you are ready to find a bigger pond to swim in. But take it easy. Use that Saturn that's in your 12th house, that is making a lovely trine to this full moon, to look at how you can go within to reflect, to look at timing, because it may be that there is something going on in your life that you just want it to change. But you know, Pisces, everything's about timing. And having this kind of knowledge about what's going on with this full moon energy, don't forget that Mars. This is you really, really getting quite emotional and angry. So try and take a step back and see the bigger picture. You're Pisces. You have an ability to see the whole ocean, to swim in the whole ocean. So don't make any rash changes or decisions, because even if you just wait a few days for this particular full moon energy to calm down, you'll actually see that other things come up, other things get revealed that make you realize that you were wise to pause and to just take your time. So there we go. That was the full moon in Gemini for all the signs. And remember, if you haven't, listen to your rising sign as well. And I'd like to say thank you so much for coming to join me for the full moon in Gemini report, or for all the astrological cosmic energy for you to navigate with this full moon. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.